California, number 18, Hot Sauce Giovanni Scelzi.
All right, here we are. First show, fresh out of Florida. My name is Chris Williams. I am joined by the star of the show, Gio Scelzi. Do you want to do Gio or Giovanni?
Well, my mom's going to get mad if you call me Gio. She said,
Really?
She said, I named you Giovanni for a reason, not Gio. She'll even get pissed off when I have Gio on my shirts.
Because I always have called you Gio.
Everyone does, but yeah.
Well,
you'll make my mom happy if you call me Giovanni.
The KCP guys who introduced me to you call you Gio.
Yeah, everyone does. It's Gio, dickhead, asshole, whatever you want to call me.
And again, you're already celebrating the fact that we can cuss here.
Yeah, exactly.
Because this isn't Dirt Vision.
There's no 7-second delay beat button. That's for sure.
No. Welcome to our first show, everybody. This is exciting. I've had this idea ever since we started Always Race Day, and I want to do these driver shows. I always looked at it like these teams. So like I'm a Iowa State Cyclone fan. They have like the Cyclone Coaches Show, and I've always thought that you dirt drivers could really utilize this to reach fans more. But then you and me got to know each other, and we're like, man, I think that this could be a lot more, where it's just a couple of guys just bullshitting and talking about racing, which we're both passionate about. And then you come at it from a driver's perspective. You've been in it your whole life. I've been a guy who always wanted to be in it, but wasn't good enough. But I come at it from a fan of the media perspective. So we may argue about some things, which I think will be good. I'm fired up for this.
Yeah, me too. I think the one I remember the most is Open Red. I think Open Red was good for a while. Ross Weiss and I believe Justin Fiedler, who owns does Dirt Track Digest or Dirt Tracker, I think, did it now. Yeah. And it came back and went away and came back, and it was cool because they had guys like Doug Wolfgang and Donnie Schatz and really cool guys on it. But I feel like podcasting has come a long way. I don't know if I guess you'd call it a podcast, Open Red podcast, but I think it's come a long way from there. And I feel like needs a bit of a new format for sprint car racing. Yeah. And all racing, really.
Absolutely. Also, I want to encourage everybody as we get started. A lot of you will be listening on the Scelzi Says podcast feed. We are going to put video of these shows up on the Always Race Day YouTube page. Okay. So go to Always Race Day on YouTube. And what we will have is the Outlaws they're going to give us video of you. So we're going to be able to show highlights and do all of that good stuff. We don't have that this week because everybody is down in Florida still for Speed Weeks. You just got back for that. We'll talk about that and kind of recap everything. But this is a passion project for me. This is what my Aiden's our producer. It's like my 9th show that I do every week now. But this I promise you, this will be the one that I'm itching and clawing to get to. I could do like a 4-hour show with you on off-season stuff without the racing. You will learn this about me, Gio, is that I'm more into the business and the back end of all this stuff than I am actually the racing.
Yep.
I'm oftentimes
sure there'll be times where we're an hour and a half in and so we say, oh my God, we have to stop. I need to go somewhere. You need to go eat something. And
we'll do this too when you're on the road. Yeah. So the cool aspect about the podcasting technology now is you could be in Pennsylvania and I could be here in Des Moines, but we're going to try and do it face to face as much as possible.
Absolutely. Yep.
I even think we could grow to do some live, Indy 500 race watches and stuff like that.
Yeah. Anytime you can have different content like that, I think would help.
So anyways, how you just get back from Florida. I was watching High Limit last night, and I could do a whole show on that, the High Limit Outlaws thing. How you're second in points coming out of that. You didn't get a win, but you feel good. You were consistent.
Yeah, we were 402nd points leaving there last year. So
that's true. I didn't think about it like that.
Took a provisional the very first night in 2023 to start the Outlaw campaign, which was pretty atrocious. I was about ready to fly back to Fresno after that week. So to unload as fast as we did, I felt like it just goes to show how much time Adam put in. Last year we had Jet Carney working for us, which last year was a very important building year, I feel like, for the whole team. And Jet was a big part of that. Decided to go home and do something else. But Bob Curtis, new car chief, came in and I felt like was a great right-hand man to Adam. Behind every great crew chief, there's a good car chief that he trusts. So Bob's been around a long time, but Tuesday was interesting when we tested. I feel like when you test a wing sprint car, you can almost dial yourself out more than you can really make yourself faster because there's no dirty air. You're racing a clock, typically on a racetrack that's nowhere near what you're going to race on. So we ran 3 sessions, went out twice each session, so 6 sessions, and I felt like we almost kind of didn't get worse, but made some changes that I don't think really helped us, and kind of just said, hey, why don't we let's just test on race day, which sounds dumb, but the only time you really figure out how the car works is when you're actually racing it.
Yeah.
So had a really 4 awesome nights, ran 7th, 4th, and 4th. So to leave, you don't want to really count your chickens before they hatch, but to be in the hunt and the points, I think you can dig yourself a really big hole in Florida and be a race or 2 out of it before you even leave those 4 races. So we're in the hunt. I think the races like Volusia, like World Finals, where there's 50 cars, you can have a bad night where you miss the show or have to use a provisional, which typically when there's 20 to 30 cars, chances are you're not really going to finish much worse than 10th or 12th. And that's only, 18 to 20 points. So making up 80, 100 points is damn near impossible. I mean, look at Gravel and Brad Sweet the last couple of years. Their points championships has come down within 40 or 50 points to the last race over an 80 race series with no chase, no countdown, nothing like that. So a true point series over the 80 races is amazing that it's that hard to gain points. And guys like Brad Sweet and David Gravel, Donnie Schatz that have won championships, they don't have very many DNFs. They don't really have bad nights. Their bad nights are 8th, 6th, 12th on a really shitty night.
So you're how do you define points racing versus racing for wins? Because you're obviously trying to win, but I mean, I haven't watched you long enough, but I've seen guys who it's like they'll do anything for a win their first couple of years, and then they just get smarter.
Yeah.
And they're more conservative. I certainly don't think you race conservatively. I that's not what I'm saying, but it's a different mindset, right?
It is. I've never been in the position to win a season long championship. Never, last year was my first time racing really a point series since NARC, which was like a 20 race series back when I was 15 years old. So,
you're one of the favorites. Like, I mean, if I'm a Vegas odds maker right now, you're one of the top 4 guys for sure.
And you always look at yourself as you get asked, what are your goals for the year? Or what do you expect to do? And if you're not trying to win the championship or expect yourself to win the championship, then why are you racing? Obviously you want to win every time you go on the racetrack, and you got to have realistic goals as well for what your team can do. But at the same time, we have all the resources, we have the funding, the engines, the people to win a championship. So why not us? That's kind of the way I look at it. And David Gravel, he's obviously paid his dues. He's been out here 11 or 12 years. Logan Schuchart, those guys have won big races, but at the same time, they have the same equipment I have. So why shouldn't I beat them?
Yeah. Well, it is always interesting when you guys unload in February. Did you learn anything about your team this year at all, or is it still too early? Like, do you feel better? Do you feel worse?
Yeah. So Adam and Aaron have been around. I think this is their 4th year with the team. So they've been here as long as I have. So those guys, I'm used to seeing them. I trust both of them. Adam, obviously not being in the crew chief role. He was in the crew chief role for the first time last year. Bob is new, which, the car chief and tire guy position are just as important as the crew chief position. That shows the 41 car. They had 2 brand new crew guys this Florida that had never worked on race cars before in their lives. They had Clyde Knipp, and I don't remember the tire guy's name, but you get 2 new guys to work on the race car. The crew chief's the same, and they struggled big time, whether that was the engine, the car, whatever. But that uncertainty as a driver, not knowing exactly if that new guy tightened a bolt or tightened the wheel, it's in the back of your mind.
I got you.
Because
your life isn't
absolutely
their hands.
And Bob Curtis has worked on race cars since before I was born. One of the best car chiefs I feel like that's done it. So him coming in, we hired him right after Chili Bowl. So mid-January he came in and has absolutely seamlessly fit in the race team. Like, rolls right in, knows exactly, builds wings, builds wheels, builds cars, like doesn't even think twice about it. So I have no worries myself. Felt the same way with Jet. We call him Chow. So if I say Chow, that's who that was.
It's all good.
Last year. So I've been very lucky to even the crew chiefs I've had before, Dylan Buswell, Bernie Stubjan, Tyler Swank, they're not here anymore, but these guys are really, really good at what they do. I never have ever thought twice about whether a bolt is tight or whether the guy working on the car has given their full input.
See, that's a thing a fan would never think about.
Oh, it means something for sure.
I've never sat there at Knoxville and be like, I wonder if they tighten the bolt.
Yep. And it really, like, my dad, I feel like, probably beat that into my head more. He asked, he's a kind of a worry. Obviously your son's in the race car, so you're going to worry about it. But hey, are the wheels tight? Hey, did you tighten the wing? Hey, are your belts, like dumb stuff like that where you hear it over and over and you're just shut up, stop reminding me. But the one time you leave a wheel loose or something stupid happens, that is my life. You know, and enough shit happens where something just breaks. Everything is tight. We didn't do anything wrong, and you break a rear axle or you break a bolt or something stupid happens, torsion stop breaks, and you junk a race car for no one's fault, you know?
Especially, I feel like, I don't know about you guys, felt like the track was okay. I was watching some of these super early late model races.
Yep.
Where the rut, like, I mean, it's hard for a late model just to hit a rut and go end over end, but I thought that we were going to see that a couple of times.
I thought the racetrack was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it seemed really good.
And at East Bay, really.
Well, the high limit one was great last night too.
And Volusia is one of those places where first time I came there was 2021. Track was phenomenal, dead slick to the fence, smooth as this table. And 22, I believe, rained a whole bunch. We rained out the first 2 All-Star shows. It was rough. Just they had nothing. It was raining. There was nothing they could do about the racetrack. Last year, track was kind of sandy, wet, didn't create great racing. And then this year it was slick to a curb, bottom. Like, you really couldn't ask for much more. And you know, people say half mile racing is this or that, but there was passes for the lead every night. Guys went forward every night. Hard charges were passing 10, 12 cars every night. So there's not really much to bitch about.
It's so funny too, you guys, you sprint car guys.
You sprint car guys.
I'm a late model guy. It's another aspect of the show that'll be fun. Yeah. So I grew up where you wanted a mile or half mile, man. That's it. I feel like that's totally changed though. Even with late models, like, to me, like, I don't get jacked up about half miles anymore. It's funny how that's changed, because when I was a kid, man, we didn't want those, you know, Eagle Raceway. Like, I'm trying to think of some of the tracks from over where I'm from. But it does seem like the smaller tracks are way more popular now. Yeah,
I mean, from a fan standpoint, I guess that I shouldn't say doesn't know much about racing, but from a newer fan standpoint, you look at a quarter mile, those cars are all closer. You know, air isn't super dependent in a small place as much as it is a half mile. You know, dirty air. It does create more exciting racing. For a racer, I think you always have a racer that prefers big tracks or small tracks. Excuse me. You know, a guy from California is going to like a small track, which is, I feel like I'm kind of abnormal. I like big track racing.
Sprints are different though. You guys can cover so much more ground faster than a late model.
And what I didn't realize till recently is how air dependent late models are too. You know, they create dirty air and you get up behind someone, but you know, especially at Knoxville, I think Jonathan Davenport was talking about how bad dirty air was. I think he actually called Knoxville a shithole, which was kind of weird.
He did. Yeah. That got a lot of hell. I believe it was our guy Connor at Always Race Day who tweeted that out.
Yeah.
The video, and that's one of the highest watched videos we've ever had.
Yeah.
Because the Knoxville people just went crazy. All right, let's get to it. This is the question that we probably could have done like 4 or 5 off-season podcasts on. I love this stuff. This is where I get fired up. The drama, the business. High limit versus the World of Outlaws. You decided to stay with the Outlaws. What went into that decision?
A lot of things. You know, like any smart race team would do, like I'm sure all the race teams did that ran the Outlaws. They talked to both sides and you know, made the smartest decision without bringing any, you know, emotional input into it. And I think that's what any team should do. Like I said, talk to Dirt Vision, talk to the Outlaws, talk to High Limit as well. And, you know, it's hard to go with a new series. You know, the unknown is a big part of it. This has happened twice with the USA series back in 89, I believe it was. And then the NST in 04, 05, 06, one of those years. But, you know, they both failed, not saying High Limit's going to fail. Very different situations for both of them. You know, from what I've heard, I feel like the USA series thing, they had literally all the badass guys. Steve Kinzer, Doug Wolfgang, Dave Blaney. I don't think Doug ran all the races, but Dave Blaney, Mark Kinzer, everyone hopped over to USA Raceway or the USA series. And again, from how I take it was you had 14, 15 of the baddest guys ever. You would get no local guys to show up because they knew they couldn't compete. So it became just those guys there and the same guys winning over and over and over. So no one wanted to race with it anymore. It went away. NST, Fred Brownfield, who started it, died shortly after the year was over. I might have been towards the end of the year when it was still going. So that kind of dissipated. Everyone kind of leads back to the Outlaws. And me having my eyes opened a lot the last 2 years is the infrastructure that World Racing Group has built with the Outlaws. You know, everyone thinks that the Outlaws is a couple semis, couple people just organizing races, which it was for a very, very long time. Carlton Reimers has been there for 150 years. You know, that's how it was back in the day. And I think like every successful series, it's grown, it's adapted with dirt vision, and it's injected a lot more money into the series. I don't know. Again, it's just kind of the unknown. The Outlaws up their perks, and the last year going on to the Outlaws for the first full-time year with me, third year for KCP. They did it with Ian a handful of years ago. It's just, for me, my goal in life is to win the Knoxville Nationals and to win a World of Outlaws championship.
Mm-hmm.
Those two things mean something to me, and I feel like the best chance I'm going to have to win the Knoxville Nationals is to run a full season with the Outlaws. When's the last time you've seen a local Knoxville guy win the Nationals? It's been forever ago. I don't even know the last time. I really don't.
I don't either.
I think part of that is because the Knoxville Nationals racetrack is different than every local show at Knoxville. And when you run the Outlaws, I think our most racetrack is Williams Grove. We go there 6 times. So 6 times on an 80 race schedule is not very many. And it feels like we go there a million times. So when you're going from Weedsport to Williams Grove to Peevely to Knoxville, you're not thinking about whether you're at Knoxville, whether you're at Chico, wherever. You're just racing that night. You're racing the racetrack you're given on that night. So I think that's why you see Donnie Schatz win. You see Jason Johnson win, Brad Sweet. These guys don't care where they're at. You really don't even have a home field advantage when the Outlaws roll into town. Like I said, when's the last time you've seen even a local Knoxville guy win an Outlaw show at Knoxville? You don't see it very often. Brent Marks won a race last year. So a PA guy that's been on the Outlaws wins an Outlaw show at Knoxville. So kind of getting off topic, but
do you consider Brown? Like, is he a local?
100%.
Okay,
yeah. He's definitely the most.
But he's always around,
for sure. Yeah, he runs everywhere. I mean, he was in Florida. He goes to Pennsylvania and stuff. But Brownie has definitely been the most competitive guy that stays around Knoxville. And his business model with his race team is amazing. With Casey's and FVP, he's built a 100% profitable race team, which is all of our goals. He's had Casey's on board for a long time, FVP as well. So what he's built, he races at racetracks that make sense for his partners. He races Knoxville every weekend, where I'm sure people from Casey's can go watch. Everyone recognizes Casey's. Casey's are freaking everywhere.
Yeah.
I think
right across the street from Knoxville.
He wakes up with a pizza and a coffee in his hand, which is great from Casey's. Like he knows how to do it and take care of sponsors. So I think for our race team, the partners we have, realistically, it would probably make more sense for us to be a local Knoxville team because our sponsors could show up. Almost every one of our sponsors are based in Iowa, around the Des Moines area. Not many are outside that area. So for them to be able to watch us every weekend would really probably make more sense. But for them, they understand that we want to compete at the highest level of sprint car racing. And for me as a driver, for our team, we're not going to take weekends off throughout the year. We're going to race every single time there's a chance. And with the Outlaws, the exclusivity thing is sucks sometimes when you want to go race East Bay or race Golden Isles. But at the same time, we've run a true Outlaw schedule, and a true Outlaw schedule where you can race wherever you want wears you out way more than an Outlaw schedule. Because Wednesday, say today, we're sitting here in our shop. You can go to Knoxville. You could race Eldora. You could race in Ohio. You could race in Pennsylvania. There's 4 realistic options you can go run on a Wednesday. Looks like rain here. Looks like rain there. I don't know about this track. You don't know where you're going on a Thursday. So my guys either have to load up and go 9 hours to Ohio, or they're going 45 minutes up the road in Knoxville, or they're going an hour and a half west to Eagle. Just that point of not knowing where you're going. And then you talk to a series, hey, I'll talk to the Outlaws, hey, I'm going to get tow money and pit passes to go race here. Looks like rain. So do I commit to going somewhere where I know it's going to rain or go somewhere else? It wears the guys out way more, not knowing where you're going, which again is part of the reason we went on the Outlaws last year, is just having that schedule. Like, exactly where you're going to go. And part of it is, last year, Wednesday, at the April Outlaw show, they cancel on Wednesday. I'm not racing anywhere else on that weekend, partly because I can't, and there is no other racing. So I can fly home. I can have somewhat of a life outside racing because the races are done. When those races get canceled, you're not racing anywhere else, which sounds dumb because I want to race, but sometimes it's kind of nice,
Yeah, especially in the grind when you're driving, you guys aren't in helicopters and jets like the NASCAR guys.
Definitely not.
Is there animosity amongst drivers? Like, when the high limit guys show up, or because it's been it feels contentious, at least
for me, no,
from the business side at least. But how do the drivers? How are they handling?
Honestly, I kind of have the attitude of I hate everybody.
I like that.
I don't care who it is on the racetrack. Obviously I don't hate everybody, but if it's Brad Sweet, if it's David Gravel, if it's Donnie Schatz, I don't really care who's in front of me. I want to pass him.
Mm-hmm.
Brad has put himself in position. Do I agree with some of the decisions he made? Probably not. Do I know all the details of all the decisions he made? Absolutely not. I don't know the closed door conversations he's had with High Limit and getting this whole thing started. From the outside looking in, this guy's won 5 Outlaw championships in a row and then goes and makes his own series. again, I don't know any of the details, very, very little of them. Not judging the guy for doing what he did. He's trying to better himself, and he's looking definitely towards the future of racing. For me, I'm 22 years old. I only care about winning races. I don't care if my grandma promotes a race. I want to win that race. I don't really care. I'm not super into the, promoting side of it. I want to win races. I feel like the only thing I need to worry about right now is if my team is successful.
Yeah. The thing I don't like about it, and this comes back to my late model past, is make fun of me and like late model guys because we're obsessed with car counts. Right. It's a big deal when you go to a late model. Like, you go to a sprint race in the past and nobody ever talks about car counts. Doesn't matter because it's the Outlaws and you knew who's going to be there. If it was the All-Stars, a little bit different, right? Because you're getting some regional guys and all that. But like the thing I've always hated about late model racing is I don't always get to see the good guys go against each other. And I've always thought that was an edge that sprints had, where it's like, man, if I'm going to an Outlaw show, every guy I want to watch is going to be there. And are you guys worried about this at all? Or is it just, hey, it's better for the sport to have more events and we're spread out now and people have more options?
I mean, the way I look at it, Brian Carter said something that really kind of hit me, was he's worried about confusing fans. And I guess what I took from that is last year I won the first high limit show of the year at Lakeside. I think it was the first one. I'm leading the points after one race, 12 race series. Next one, I don't show up at because I can only race 4 Outlaws. We all know the reason. But for the average fan, Gio won the first high limit race. He's leading the points. Why is he not at the second one? This makes no sense to me. So someone tweets me, hey, whatever. So I tweet a picture of my feet on the couch saying I'm at home. I'm in Fresno. We got rained out or whatever happened. Doesn't make sense to the average fan. Okay, why can't Gio race? Well, I can't because the Outlaws don't let me. Well, that's bullshit. Why don't the Outlaws let you? Okay, well, hang on. We get paid to show up with the Outlaws. We get paid tow money. We get pit passes. So we're contracted to run only Outlaw shows. We can only go to 4 other races. So am I going to choose to go to Podunk, Louisiana for a high limit show, or am I going to go to Lakeside that's 3 hours from my shop, pays $50,000 a win, where I've already won an Outlaw show at? Makes sense to go to Lakeside, right? So it just, for the average fan that doesn't know the ins and outs and what we can and can't do, the Outlaws look like this freaking Nazi Germany, can't do nothing. You got to race with us. Don't go anywhere else. But like when you read through the Platinum Agreement, it really does make sense. I mean, the World of Outlaws series was started with exclusivity. If you want to see Steve Kinzer, if you want to see Sammy Swindell, Donnie Schatz, you have to come to an Outlaw show. Because what stops Chris Williams from promoting a show at Eagle, Nebraska on a Wednesday when the Outlaws are going to Knoxville Saturday for $50,000 win? Doesn't have to pay a sanction fee. All the Outlaws would go there. So the Outlaws, all they're trying to do is protect their brand with this exclusivity. Business. Absolutely. And again, not saying it was the right thing, wrong thing, whatever with High Limit. They've started a legitimate series. There's no doubt about that. They have a real following, a real, I think 17 or 18 guys have signed up full time. It just, back to your question, does it matter who I'm racing? No, there's zero animosity towards Brad Sweet. I'm not going to race him any differently, whether he starts whatever series, whether he goes in golf. I don't care what he does. For me, it's just another car to pass.
Is there a void now in sprint car racing? Again, I'm going off of late models. It feels like we have so many more like regional series in the late model world and I always thought that the All-Stars kind of filled that void. I mean, where are those guys all going to race now? Are they just hanging out in Pennsylvania and Ohio, or is that a void in this sport now?
100%. Okay. The All-Stars had probably a third of their schedule, if not more, in Ohio and Pennsylvania. High Limit has 4 races in PA in Ohio, 2, 3, 5, not very many, single digits for sure.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Like, what are all those guys going to do?
So again, from what I've understood, correct me if I'm wrong, the Fast Series, which was a regional series in Ohio, Fremont Attica Sprint Tour, I think is what it's called, an AFCS. Those races, those series are going to expand a little bit throughout Ohio, throughout Pennsylvania, and some of them will turn into track championships, like just a Williams Grove Track Championship. Their local series they run, Lincoln, Port Royal, but like obviously the All-Stars, the High Limit took up the Weikert race, which was a big paying race in Port Royal, Tusky 50 as well. So, I've never raced locally in Pennsylvania, so I don't know what those guys are thinking. I know there was a lot of pushback when the High Limit put their schedule out because the All-Stars, whether it's successful or not, they were the oldest running continuous sprint car series, touring sprint car series in the United States, 1970s when they started. So I don't know.
Maybe I'm old school.
Yeah, I don't just I don't know what happens to those guys that race locally that ran the All-Stars. I mean, a lot of them have jumped over to high limit, but I can promise you it's going to cost way more money to drive cross country to the West Coast than it was to race the Outlaws, or than it was to race the All-Stars, being regionally just the East Coast. There's no question.
Yeah, you'd almost be better just picking and choosing local shows and then just running around and hitting the Outlaws when you guys are out there. I mean, I again, like, it just, I know what it's done for me as a late model fan. And I hope, I really hope that the power brokers in sprint car racing have thought through that aspect of it.
I mean, in my opinion, we probably have 2 to 3 golden years of sprint car racing with both these series existing. One of them is going to fail. One of them is going to succeed. One of them, there has to be an A and B series. Not saying All-Stars was a B series, a national touring series and a regionally touring series.
That's my other thing too. Like, is there enough sponsorship money to, and we're also in this new era with streaming. So all these people are watching these races all over the country. We used to never be able to watch the races in Florida. It would, like, TNN would maybe air 1 or 2 of them later on. So there's going to be more sponsorship money, but and I don't know enough about the charter system with high limit. I don't know enough about this stuff, but we don't have enough big national sponsors in this sport to validate it for more than 2 or 3 years, in my opinion. We'll see. And hopefully streaming with Flow and Dirt Vision and all that stuff, hopefully it continues to grow, and then we can get some bigger, more national sponsors to put up the bill.
I think that's, the right way of looking at it. I feel like a little bit of NHRA kind of segueing into them. They're looking at, how do we make the top fuel cars cheaper to run? We got to make them less expensive. How about you bring more sponsorship to the series and pay these guys more money? With the Outlaws, sprint cars are only getting more expensive to run. Wages are going up. Diesel's more expensive. Hotels are more expensive. Let's bring more money into the sport. Pay guys more money to race.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple. You don't need to cheapen the race cars. It's not a good idea to me. Excuse me. Shipping with, like you said, streaming.
There should be money coming in eventually with the streaming thing.
And I believe the point fund for the Outlaws is $1.9 million. It's $350,000 to win the points. Obviously, it's nowhere near what it costs to run, but I can tell you very, confidently what it costs us to race for a year, and your winnings are absolutely never going to offset what you pay, unless you win the million like Logan Schuhart did. That's the only time. But a great year is winning 300, 400, 500 grand a year, which is awesome, and it's not even half of what you spend, which is why you have sponsorship. That stuff makes up for a lot of it. But winnings has never been able to pay your way racing. It just doesn't make sense. Brent Marks won $275,000 in 2 nights at Eldora. I promise you, it's nowhere near what he spends a year. What a full-time Outlaw caliber team spends a year. There's no way.
So you're making money based on your guarantees with the Outlaws merch.
So yeah, essentially, everyone has their, different ways of looking or different ways of giving things. Some of the drivers own their merch, some team owns their merch. They all have different things, but the way I look at it is it's cost what it costs. I don't know. I don't see how it can be any different with high limit than the Outlaws. Racing, because essentially the schedules, it's 20, 30 less races. They go to the same places. They both go to California. They both go to Pennsylvania. They both race all across the country. Go to Texas. It's no different to me.
So this this upcoming, like, you think that whatever we're doing right now is going to be the case for a little bit. We need to wait, and there's not going to be like a winner or loser at the end of this year.
I don't think so. I think you got to let high limit get on its feet. They're doing a lot of different things with format, with, the way the race goes. It's still a sprint car race, still kind of the same shit. But like I said, the format's much different. How many guys stay on the series the whole year? 17 cars is a lot of race cars. I believe it's 17 are signed on full time. Outlaws haven't had that many cars since I can even remember. It's always the mean 15. 15 was the most cars they ever had. I believe there's 13 signed on full time with the Outlaws. So really, to have that many cars travel all the way to California towards the end of the year in September, guys are going to blow up engines. Guys are going to burn up their provisionals. If you're sitting 12th or 13th in points, even for an Outlaw team, doesn't really make sense to keep going.
That's where I don't understand the charter thing at this level.
Honestly, I don't either.
Okay.
To me,
because there's not just this demand to get into it like you have at NASCAR, where these charters are going for millions of dollars because of the TV ratings going up, right, and there's all these national sponsors involved. Like, maybe it's just very forward thinking, and Brad and Kyle will be right on this. I'm having a hard time grasping it.
And back to your question with the reason we didn't choose high limit, hey, when we first spoke to Brad, it was at World Finals. So they had not announced this charter system yet. So it was, hey, we could have this charter system. It was kind of, okay, how much is it going to be? We don't know. When is it going to be put in place? We don't know. It's like, well, you got a lot of uncertainties for us when I know exactly what I'm getting with the World of Outlaws. Is it enough? However you want to look at it, whatever. But I know what I'm getting with the Outlaws. I can budget towards the Outlaws. They upped our tow money. They give us pit passes. They give us more perks. They've upped their nightly purse. I know exactly what I'm getting. I know what the Outlaws is,
How does it work? I can tell you as a fan, I've watched Brad and Kyle both win a million races, and they've put on good shows. And as a fan, I'm sitting in the stands. I don't really care. I just want a good race. If you're the owners of a series and you win 2/3 of the races and all that purse money, I don't think it's rigged. I'm not saying that, but does that get weird for drivers when your bosses are winning all the money?
I mean, I can tell you, for me personally, if I were to run high limit, I get my ass kicked by Kyle and Brad in the points. I'm going to look at how can I beat these guys? Not, well, the guy that owns the series is beating me. But to your point, like you said, there is absolutely zero bias. There's zero cheating. They're not winning. It's because they're on series. They're winning because they're the best cars.
They're the best.
Exactly. Brad and Kyle just happen to be the two fastest cars in the racetrack, And obviously Tyler Courtney, Rico Abreu, these guys are going to give them a run for their money for the points. No doubt. Brent Marks, same way. A lot of good cars that could legitimately win the championship. But there's a reason Brad Sweet's won the last 5 Outlaw championships in a row versus Donnie Schatz versus David Gravel. It's not because he just lucked into it. It's because he's the best car in the country. He's been the best car in the country. So I don't know. I feel like for the average fan, again, even for the 12 race series, it's like, oh, well, Kyle won. It's his own series, And again, he was the best car. He's the best driver in the world right now. So,
and he's the one who's bringing in a ton of audience.
Yeah, for sure he is. I mean, his t-shirt trailers lined up out the door there to see Kyle Larson, which is great. That's awesome. That's why that series is successful right now. But again, when that happens over and over and over, and like you said, they're winning all these big purses, it doesn't look great again. And that's a little bit where I feel like there's kind of animosity towards the World of Outlaws. Is there is zero there. There hasn't organization completely separate from the racers. Do they talk? Yes. Do they agree on stuff? Do they disagree on stuff? Yes. But Gio Scelzi isn't in the t-shirt or in the Outlaw Command Center bullshitting with old mate because he's his buddy. It just doesn't work that way. I respect all those guys. They're very professional about their jobs. If I'm going to go in there and bitch at Carlton Ramers, he's going to say, get out of my trailer. It just doesn't work that way, Yeah. So, and there's a good dialogue between us and the Outlaws. I feel like if I have a question or an opinion or something, they're going to listen to it and say, well, yeah, okay, stupid, or yeah, all right, no worries, we'll think about it. But that's the idea you have to have. If I have a problem with the series and I'm going to go bitch at Brad Sweet, who I just raced against, I have a moral.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again,
it is, it's wild.
It's hard.
It's wild to me.
So Mike Hess, who was the head official for the Outlaws, left to go to high limit, which was huge. Left end of last year, which was a big void for the Outlaws. They had some working to get through, and they got through it. We're doing good now, I feel like. But Mike Hess was there for 8 years, was a huge part of the series, huge part in decision making, and having that voice on the radio. I think Mike has done a great job. I think he will do an incredible job like he has been with High Limit. He's great at organization, and he's a guy that you can come bitch to them, and he'll say, "I don't care what you think. This is the decision we made, and this is why." So I think having him there will help that void between. You're probably not going to go bitch at Brad Sweet about something that happened. You're going to go to Mike or go to the people he's put in place.
Yeah, because it's a guy
But again, it's always kind of in the back of your mind when a guy that owns a series involved in management, whatever you want to call it, is racing against you, beating you.
Oh, the other that's the other interesting aspect of this is how many of these Rodman the announcer is now there, and there's all these people who were with the Outlaws who are now over there, and it's got this real business wars vibe to it.
And man, that's again where I have I wouldn't call it a problem, but you guys have an issue with, you don't like the way the Outlaws business model is, but you've tried to hire, and you have hired most of the guys from the World of Outlaws, Mike Hess, Chase Rodman, Tony Laporta, those guys, they're just announcers, but they're still people from the World of Outlaws. And those guys are bettering their careers. You can't complain. Chase Rodman went from an infield announcer to a lead announcer.
He's the play-by-play guy.
Yeah, so he went up, and I think Tony didn't want to do the videography stuff he was doing at the Outlaws, so he got to be an infield announcer. So that's what he wants to do. Mike Hess, obviously, being somewhere 8 years is a long time. He wanted to make a change and go to Highland, which good on him. He made a good decision. If that's what he wants to do, great. But, a sprint car race is a sprint car race. You can make everyone race with their eyes closed or race with one hand behind their back, but it's still a sprint car race. Once they get under green and once all the Twitter bullshit and riffraff goes away, we're all just racing each other. Like the outlaw races, everybody was still there. That's why that race is so good, Evolution. Why it's so tough. Same as World Finals, because everybody is there. You're missing no one.
Fascinating stuff. This will be a storyline that we'll tackle all year. I know you're not a huge NASCAR guy, but the Daytona 500 is coming up this weekend. And does it, when you're down in Florida during speed weeks and you guys go back in March, I've heard a lot of people down there say it doesn't feel like it did 10 years ago or something. It's probably because the clash isn't there. They don't have their opening race. It almost feels to me like you guys have really closed in on them, not in popularity, but just if I were to go down into Florida in February, I would go and do the dirt thing and then just go watch Daytona at home. Now I think they're going to be sold out on, I think they're going to be sold out on Sunday, but since you've been going down there, does it feel different? Like the whole Speed Weeks thing, or?
The first time I kind of figured out what Speed Weeks was when I came down there in 2020 to race the ARCA races at New Smyrna. I didn't realize that it's literally Speed Weeks. I mean, there's damn near over a month of racing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's late models, sprint cars, late models, late models, modified sprint cars, NASCAR, pavement late models, all kinds of stuff. So there's just a shitload of people there all the time, it seems like. I mean, there was nothing going on really early in the week when I got there on Sunday, Monday, and I stayed right by the big speedway, and there's traffic constantly. So obviously it's a really popular area, but the attraction that speedway makes, and even for bike week, I mean, good God, last year there for bike week, it was insane. I mean, the people in the stands, it's just, I feel like, so many things go on, and how many people the 500 draws is great for us to be part of Speed Weeks. I feel like kind of we lead it off, sort of like their car
like
stuff
it.
is early in Speed Weeks, but ending
that in the 24.
Exactly. Yep. With the Rolex 24. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of shit going on around there.
There's talk now.
And Bradenton with the drag races, with the flow thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's new this year and 2 hours away.
There's talk now because they've had the NASCAR clash at the Coliseum in LA a few years, and it was really cool the first year. The second year was all right, and then, this was the second year. It was just kind of okay, whatever. There's talk now of potentially moving it back to Daytona. I guess where I'm going is to have the plate racing conversation. I understand it. I understand that it's a skill. I don't think it's just luck. That Ryan Blaney's always at the front and Bubba Wallace.
Ricky Stenhouse.
Yeah. Stenhouse won the Daytona 500 last year. Do you like it? Do you like watching it? Because I don't really care for it. I hate the fact that the biggest race is one that generally, like, you could have the best car and we can totally just because a guy wrecks in front of you. I don't know. You know where I'm going. Is this your cup of tea this weekend?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's part of it. It to me, it kind of seems like you're asking a driver, hey, do you like the chase format? I could love it or hate it, but it is what it is. The biggest race of the year for them is at Daytona. It's a restrictor plate race. It's on a 2.5 mile racetrack. You got to be good at it. If you want to win the 500, you got to win at Daytona.
It just doesn't feel as big as it did when I was a kid. And I think NASCAR's gotten a lot bigger.
Yep. But
this race to me doesn't feel as prestigious because of the crazy amount of borderline luck involved.
I kind of feel like it's similar to Knoxville. You got guys that, oh my God, I hate going 1/2 miles. Or guys like me where it's like, oh, I'm ready. I could not want a better racetrack for the biggest race of the year to be at. I'm sure Stenhouse feels that way. He probably licks his lips going to Daytona. Yes, there's luck involved. Yes, there's not crashing like there is in sprint car race or in NASCAR racing. But at the same time, there's guys that are good at that, guys that aren't. So I think if you're gonna bitch about it as a driver, then figure it out. You know what I mean?
I don't even know what the answer is. I just, like, as a fan, and maybe this is just because I'm older.
Yeah.
I have kids now. I don't sit around and watch every minute of practice like I used to.
Yeah, but look at the way NASCAR racing has changed over the last 15 years. Kind of started with the chase. Hey, this is a whole new thing. Essentially your points don't really matter unless you get in the chase. Yeah. Then it all resets, and then now stage racing. So I would be curious to talk to a crew chief or a driver even that's lived through all of it, like a Denny Hamlin or a Kevin Harvick. How those guys, do they like the chase? Do they not like the chase? Do they like stage racing? Because I mean, really, if you're racing to 100 laps or whatever it is, completely, and there's going to be a yellow, there's no green and checker races anymore. There's very rarely green flag pit stops. So I don't know. I think it definitely changes the whole dynamic of how NASCAR racing has changed over the last 15 years.
If they move the clash, which, by the way, I'm done. I'm over the LA thing. Like, we don't need to be doing that. Which, again, it's cool, but I like the idea of taking it to these, maybe where do they run the ARCA?
Smyrna. Yep.
These small tracks in Florida, and then you keep the Florida Speed Weeks vibe. Like, I would much rather see that than go to the big 2.5 for a race because the Clash used to mean something.
Yeah, for sure.
Because those guys weren't all rich.
Yep, I agree.
We got $500K on the line. I'm going to wreck this guy, right? Like, it meant something.
Right.
They would fight over this race because the money was it would determine if you were going to eat steak or if you're going to eat ramens, right?
And I mean, you look at, like you say, LA has kind of lost some of the excitement. This is the second year I think I've done it.
Yeah.
First year, oh my God, it was the coolest thing ever. They're racing at the Coliseum. They're paving this racetrack. This is great.
Yeah.
The racing has never really been that good because it's just kind of, there's no banking, so you got to run around the bottom. Small place, kind of like Martinsville. But it's similar. What I'm thinking is a Bristol with a sprint car. Dude, we're, obviously it was big, but we're going to Bristol. This is badass. A bunch of people. Second year, it's kind of like, okay, well, the racing wasn't that good last year.
Exactly.
I went, I saw it. It was cool. And then they don't do it again. They did it 20 years ago and stuff like that, like the St. Louis midgets there. The late model thing still kills it, the indoor thing, but midgets, okay, it was there 1 year. Next year, it's like, oh God, this kind of sucks. Like Chili Bowl has definitely lost none of its muster. Look at that race. It's awesome. Nothing's going on. No, it's different. But, the LA thing is like I said, the racing's not great. Moving it back to Daytona, or like you said, somewhere else, I feel like would make a little bit more sense.
Dirt promoters have told me that they'll do it. They do this often where they'll run a special for a couple years and then they'll take 2 years off.
Yeah. I mean,
fires up the crowd to come back the next time.
Yep. So who knows? It's all hearsay, but back 100 years ago, probably close to 100 years ago, probably 75 years ago, they had a race in the Milton Hershey football stadium. They put a dirt track there, ran sprint cars there long time ago, probably the 40s and 50s. And Milton Hershey has become a big sponsor of the Outlaws, and they're talking about maybe bringing something back, which I've never got the chance to race. A cool kind of one-off setting like that. Bristol was cool, but somewhere where they put dirt or make their own racetrack. Sometimes like Nashville, the surface wasn't good by any means, but it was so cool. It was Nashville. It was inside a pavement track. It was all the things that needed to be cool. I think I only did it one year, but something like that is like, whoa, this is awesome. Let's go do it. And then the racing's not great. You kill it the first year. It's like, okay, we're going to take off for a couple years, maybe do it somewhere else or do it at the same place again, but make people want it to come back,
Yeah. I hope they don't take the Clash back there. They need to keep the Clash, but they need to make it. Those guys are not going to press it on that track for 50 laps because they're all rich. Like, again, it's just like, it doesn't make sense like it did 25, 30 years ago. That'll just go away with the thing. I don't know. But personally, I couldn't care less. But there's this thought in racing that you've got to have the Clash to get speed weeks rolling. And I don't really buy that anymore. Now that we can watch you guys, we've got
a lot of other stuff,
all the late model stuff going on. It's like, I can't even keep up with the amount of racing that's going on right now. All right. Will you watch the 500? Do you tune into that?
Normally I'll watch the beginning of it, sleep through most of it, and then watch the rest.
True NASCAR fan.
Yeah,
right there.
Yep.
So you guys are back on the road March 3rd. Is that right?
Yep. So
nothing
we'll leave
before then.
Nothing. So we'll just hang out. Obviously Florida went pretty smooth for us.
You didn't destroy anything.
No, it was good. It went well. No motors or junk. No cars or junk. Ran 2 different engines, which both of them ran really good, which is a plus for us too. So pretty easy. Their boys got back last night. So did I. So they're working, servicing, and kind of business as usual.
All right. I want you guys to listen to us if you like the show. Subscribe to us here on the podcast, wherever you're listening to your podcast. This should be up everywhere by now. And then go to the YouTube page for Always Race Day where you can watch the video. Again, this will be we'll have more video in the future. Today it was just Gio and I sitting here talking. We are going to have highlights and all that cool stuff that we'll be playing, in the future. Also, if you're watching and you want to sponsor the show, that would be kind of cool. We're looking for some of those. And go out and buy yourself. Do you have your new merch out yet?
Yep, GeoScelziRacing.com. Another thing that's cool is we're doing the ultimate fan experience. So I don't know if you saw what we done on Twitter.
I've heard that you're doing this, but I don't know what it is.
So it's honestly kind of insane. I can't believe we actually are doing it.
Does that mean somebody gets to drive the car?
Yeah, it's correct.
Oh, shit.
So you better get entered.
Can I win?
Absolutely, you can.
Oh, okay.
Completely random. You guys get a shot as anybody else.
Okay.
So what we did was, before I drove the car, when Ian drove the car, they put 4 of our race cars together, put bigger seats in them and let all of our main sponsors drive them around Knoxville. So obviously everyone was over the moon, coolest thing I've ever done. Because watching it's like watching football, whatever, man, that's easy. Then when you get in the car, you're like, how'd I do? And you're doing like 20 miles an hour on the bottom. So it's free to enter. Each person gets 1 free entry tied to your email. So if you want to get more entries, you buy merchandise. Every piece of merchandise you buy online gets another entry for you. So essentially what it is for the June show in Knoxville, Sunday's a NASCAR race in Newton. So you'll get airfare for you, tickets to the races Friday, Saturday, kind of an hour and a half long course, what you're doing, how to start it,
that's going to be
fun
a sweet
stuff.
weekend.
It's going to be awesome. So the Outlaws are actually helping us promote it. They've done a lot of the groundwork with us, made a little commercial for it. It's cool. I just think, the raffle thing, I think, has become really big with wing panels, with gloves, with helmets, whatever. And I, Matt is the one that kind of thought of the idea was, why don't we do a raffle, we call it a raffle drawing, whatever, for someone to drive the sprint car? Because, every guy, every fan ever wants to drive a 410 sprint car. So like I said,
I do.
The drawing closes May 1st, which gives us a month to get a seat that fits you or whoever, if they might be my size, flying to the races that morning of the NASCAR race. Hopefully have some people from, media people from NASCAR, whoever, everyone's open to come to hang out and watch. So I'm excited for it. It's going to be cool to see someone, drive a sprint car for the first time. It's going to be awesome.
I've got a camping spot at Iowa, and I'm already debating. I'm out in turn 3 and probably going to have to get down to Knoxville on Friday, Saturday.
Yep,
I've already got the whole weekend planned. All right, go and do that. And real quick, are you coming out with a new diecast with the blue car?
Absolutely, they're ordered. So
perfect.
Should be here late May, early June. Not 100% sure. Normally, it take about 6 months to get. So we got more coming for sure.
Okay.
So we'll have 2 sitting there.
Sweet. That'll be awesome. Gio, thanks, man. I hope you have fun.
Thank you.
This is the start of something really cool. Thanks to Aiden Wyatt for hanging out with us here. And again, like, subscribe, leave a comment, do all that good stuff that helps us build this thing up. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time here on Scelzi Says.